Welcome to Uniting the Cults. Another episode of Why is Everybody Stupid? This one is about what caused you to question Islam. And it's an r ex-Muslim subreddit post that I made. Let's see here. Before you started seriously questioning Islam, what was your education and upbringing like? So I'm sort of trying to find out the root causes of why people leave Islam. Did you take a philosophy class? And do you think it helped you learn how to think independently instead of just believing what other people say? Did you study physics, chemistry, biology, or any other of the sciences? Were your parents university educated? Maybe they took philosophy and science classes. Did your parents and your society not talk about hell that much? In which case, I presume you don't fear hell, which means you have no obstacle to thinking critically about Islam. And 5, did your parents give you a lot of freedom to think and to act on your thinking? This is very general. Let's see. I started questioning Islam when I was 13, when an event happened where my friend at the time tried to commit suicide. That's a big life event that would get someone to start thinking. Since I was a kid and I didn't really know about suicide, it kind of shocked me that people tried to take their own life, and it made me question how a God can make people go through such pain that they want to kill themselves and then say they will burn eternally, and then it just clicked. Yeah. So Islam says, and it's not the only religion that says this, that, it's a sin to commit suicide. They said it just clicked. 1, I had interest in philosophy. Oh, so now they're answering my questions. I had interest in philosophy the time this event happened, and yes, I do believe it helped me think. Number 2, no, not really. What was number 2? I don't remember that. Did you study physics? Yes, they were. My dad took biology classes. My mom took science. 4, well, my parents wouldn't really talk about hell. So their parents didn't scare them with hell, but society did. But I didn't fear hell once I understood that it didn't make sense. Yeah, so they didn't get a lot of indoctrination about hell, like descriptions of burning flesh and remaking flesh and constantly doing that for eternity. 5, my parents weren't really an obstacle, but my grandma and grandpa were, since they were extremely religious, unlike my mom and dad. So I chose to keep it a secret and go along with what they did. My mom and dad don't pray really at all, not even like once a year. Honestly, I know they wouldn't mind it, but I'm afraid of my grandpa and grandma. I'm sorry if I misunderstood something. Have a nice day. You understood me fine? Let's see. I started questioning Islam when I learned that Allah hates gay and trans people. I'm guessing they're gay or trans. Doesn't have to be, though. I used to think Islam was always on the good side. My family never talked about anything related to LGBTQ, so I only came to know about these things from my friend who is bisexual. She's one of the nicest people I know, and almost my entire friend group came out as queer eventually. Oh, so they're not gay, but they have a lot of friends that are. I had that too. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of friends, but I had a few gay friends. I could see that gay people are just normal people living their lives. So when I found out that Islam is anti-gay, it didn't make any sense to me. I used to think Allah always sides with the good people and helps the oppressed. That's what I was always told. Eventually, it made me think maybe Allah isn't even real. I also started watching, I don't know what that is, theremin trees, and it helped a ton in understanding how absolute bullshit religion is. I didn't take any philosophy classes or anything, but I started to learn about nihilism a bit. But what is it? My parents are doctors and strict Muslims, so they didn't really give me a lot of freedom. They also wanted to go into science-oriented fields, but I want to be an artist. But apparently, that's also forbidden in Islam. My mother talks about Islam all the time. Ever since I was a child, she would give me descriptions of how girls who don't wear hijab get punished in hell, or how kafirs will stay in hell forever. So, like, for a very long time, I literally was really fucking scared of small doubts or questions that would appear in my mind and just repress them. Shit. So it prolonged it. My backward minded father has changed all my hopes for being that perfect Muslim daughter. He's made me have a bad outlook to how we should follow and do righteous acts within our religion over me falling for someone non Muslim. Yeah. So loving someone and then not being able to be with them because they don't share the same religion, that's a problem for people. This person answered, they didn't take a philosophy class. They had one, they said not really, but then they said they did. I don't know what that means. So one of these things was their major or something. I don't drink alcohol. Okay. I heard talks about hell since I was a kid. I forgot most of it. So they were indoctrinated with hell, but then they got over it. But it really helped that, they were a philosophical or science-minded person. They were indifferent. See, yeah, they were indifferent, but they didn't encourage religious questions. They shut it down pretty quickly. It's what God says, so there's no discussion about it. So I don't know what they meant by they were indifferent. Indifferent about what? What caused me to question Islam? College. Being exposed to critical thought. I'm not talking about analyzing things and figuring out how they work. I'm talking about the work of philosophers. Yes, that'll help. Like when you find out that over 2,000 years ago, there was ancient Greek philosophers making refutations of God that you don't see a lot of people talking about today, at least not in Muslim groups. It's like the Muslims are saying, hey, we have all this old knowledge from 1,400 years ago that is like superior to what we have today, but they're not looking at the old knowledge from the rest of the world that is actually older than Islam. and already refutes all of Islam. What else caused me to question Islam? The hypocrisy. Having sex before marriage for both Muslim men and women. The women would pretend they're not fucking people. Yeah, they would like do anal sex and then say that they're virgin. And wouldn't have their boyfriend sleep overnight. But they'd still fuck. And then those same women would be mean girls and talk about how the Western girls are sluts. Yeah, that's hypocrisy. But weren't you just having anal sex because anal is not haram, but vaginal is? And sucking dick, but the Western girls are sluts? Okay. What else? The culture of hatred. They hate everyone who isn't Muslim, but will be fake to the faces of the people they hate. They'll pretend they don't hate Jews, but will be full of fury when they would have to take classes with Jewish people or had a Jewish professor. Wow. I've never seen that. That sucks. So I asked which philosophers, all of them. I started questioning during COVID since my mother was reluctant on me praying. So I got curious of what the religion was like. The more I researched, the more I grew to dislike it. Yeah, and they were researching with a critical eye. They weren't researching like, let me research the Quran to strengthen my faith. I took Islam seriously and started reading its holy books like I thought I was supposed to. Yeah, so this person was trying to, if I'm understanding this right, was trying to read the Quran and those other holy books for the purpose of strengthening their faith, but it had the opposite effect. Maybe I should ask. Let's see. My first doubt was in college, where we were studying Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great became the leader of the Greeks, the Greek Empire. He turned it into a Greek Empire. In his lifetime, like he took over Persia, him and his army, and made this gigantic empire. And the details are a bit hazy but supposedly his mother had some divine realization when pregnant with him that was very similar to Amina, and the light bursting from her when she was pregnant. Rightfully, the class were in hysterics, and I played along all the while thinking I'm in a religion that believes the same thing. Brushed the thought aside for another few years until uni, when I looked into Islam and realized it was a crock of shit. I started questioning Islam when I read ayats about slavery, underage marriages, polygamy, no women rights, masked as salvation for women. It never made sense how women were given any rights when there were practically none. Also, had an entire Islamic preaching group in my university who were the most vile, rude people I ever met. They would basically judge every other person who was different from them. The more I met religious people, the more I started doubting the religion. Doubting Muslim here. No, I have not taken a philosophy class. My doubts have just come from well thinking, I guess, and from trying to see things from other people's perspectives. That's good. I'm currently a pre-engineering student in AS level. I don't know what that means. Basically junior in high school. Okay. So I do study physics and chemistry, not biology though. I did have biology in middle school. And that's when I think I found something strange in my religion for the first time, as we just had a page about evolution and my teacher told us how it isn't actually true. If it isn't true, why is it in a science book? um, I thought about this, but never said it. My mother has a PhD from Imperial College in Life Sciences, and my father has a master's in biotechnology and now teaches at university, while my mother works as a researcher in agriculture. My mother firmly believes in Islam, while my father believes it too, but isn't very religious. They didn't talk about hell much, but I had very religious phases at times during which I had watched multiple videos about hell, the great punishment, etc. I'll admit that isn't an obstacle for me, because if Islam is true, then I'm screwed. So they're recognizing that their fear of hell is at least partially keeping them in Islam. I once talked about a rule in Islam I didn't like to my mother, and she wasn't happy with the thought that I might be planning to leave the religion. I told my father some of my doubts, and he listened, though. He argued with me and still believes in Islam, but he doesn't try to stop me from thinking the way I do. So there's some level of freedom there. But I meant everything, not just religion. Ah, I remember speaking to this person. And I mean, besides this little comment, maybe, I don't know. It was 2 months ago. Okay, this person says, no, I didn't take a philosophy class. The first kicker for me to exit Islam was its conflict with my liberal moral standard. So they're from a country that, my guess, they're from a country where that's bigger. Thinking of evidence against Allah only came about after or later, on which reaffirms to me the subjectivity of belief systems and their non-scientific nature. I'm in social science, specifically economics. I took a focus in, I don't know what IPE is, in university, and now I'm planning to continue in financial economics. Both fields, especially the latter, provides good foundation for combining both theories and empirical evidence. Yeah, it's a scientific field. They are both sciences. So while I don't have exposure to any of the hard sciences, I do have exposure to the soft sciences. Yeah, I don't. That's fine. I don't care about the hard soft delineation. My dad graduated at the top university in my country in engineering. My mom finished her PhD in medicine or something similar. My mom's closer to science than my dad since she publishes journal articles, but she's still not as scientific since I don't think she even knows the demarcation between science versus non-science. Like Popper's falsification test. I came from a medium-sized city in Indonesia, and the city itself is very much one of the more conservative in Indonesia as a whole. So hell is commonly talked about there, especially during religious sermons. My family used to be, or parents used to be, relatively controlling, but ever since I got older, they tend to care much less, to the point that it's just an open secret for them that I'm an atheist now. Plain delivery, 2051 again. I watched philosophers rather than studying philosophy. I count that as studying philosophy. You know, if you're not blindly watching, then you're studying philosophy just by watching them. I learned English, biology not so good, chemistry not so good either, to help me understand what the opposition has to say, as they are mainly English speakers. Before that, I used to listen to sheikh or student scholars such as Muhammad Hijab and the other guy who is also scientist but Muslim, can't remember his name, because I couldn't understand what the opposition has to say or said. Either they get interrupted or they have less knowledge or they couldn't explain themselves clearly. You could say I was highly biased or my understanding was garbage. But long story short, I started listening to the Quran in English because it's fucking hard to understand in my own language, Somali. Somalia. Don't they speak Arabic over there, or a version of, I don't know. So, well, little do you know, I would cry, ask Allah forgiveness for being a bad boy. Then I would start preparing myself for atheists too if they ask me why I believe Islam. I mostly am alone and talk to myself a lot, which helped me ask myself these questions. Yes, talking to yourself a lot helps. I talked about this yesterday with my daughter on a podcast episode that I'm releasing this coming Monday, 5/20. Why do I believe Islam is true and not Hindu? I think it's Hindi. Damn it, there you have Dr. Zakir Nike appears, explaining why all religions may be from Allah, and it made sense because I believed 120,000 prophets came down, so it made sense. Then, as I went on and on this road, wanting to convert other, defend pedophilia, I was honest, motherfucker. Why should I be scared if I have the truth? Lo and behold, the boss, Matt, appears, and Megalodon atheists. Forrest was very helpful and more like easy to understand when it comes to explanation. So I think it only took me one day to leave Islam, guessing I was on the edge, or just the rational thinking kicked in perfectly. Muslims told me to not watch these videos, and I refused, because if I have the truth, then there's no way I can be misguided and believe Allah is all powerful and change hearts as He wills. If He loves me, He will not change my heart for worse, as I loved Him much more than anything. But no, I don't believe in free will, and I don't believe Allah has free will either. If Allah knows every action He's going to take, can He do otherwise? If no, then He has no free will. If yes, then He didn't know He was going to change His mind, therefore not all-knowing. Yeah. If He knew He was going to change His mind, then He is doing what He has already foreseen, therefore no free will. You know, a basic thing this person is doing here is looking for contradictions in the God theory, or the Islamic one. To be clear, it sounds so fast, but no, this all happened in 5 years. It's not one night thing. It's a graduate thing. It takes time to unlock rational thinking and understand what the opposition is proposing, especially when you are foreign to developed countries and always feel superior to them and see them as jahils. Jahil means ignorant person, even though, and it's used usually by Muslims against non-Muslims, even though most of them, because they don't know about garbage things like Islam. It's hard to read. You can ask me questions, don't worry. Man, he didn't take what I said well. If you like this video and my other videos, please hit like, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, please find me on Twitter. And What is it? At Uniting the Cults. Thank you, everybody.